I mean, it gets back to what I said is, you could be I mean, look through all the stuff. The disease you're going to get as a result of this is you're going to go through and you're going to start to notice stuff that's working. It's not well done. And you're going to see the opportunity that's out there. You're going to see a lot of things that are working, that are running week after week, month after month, year after year. And the people aren't that good that market it. They just have a great offer. It gets back to they have an audience that wants to buy. They want to. I can tell you right now, if you can get by the FTC and the FDA, if you sell a tonic that grows hair and it actually works, you're done. You've got all the money you've ever wanted to get. And you could be a lousy marketer, as long as you can prove that it works. I mean, you'll make a fortune. Just because of the offer, because the audience is so big, it gets back to, and I don't want to stress abs, knowing that I could use every ab item that's available. But I need a personal trainer for $400 an hour or something. But the fact is, with this particular offer here, it's the market. It's so huge. And as I said earlier, it got bigger when Tony Little says it'll help your back. Every one of these ab offers could increase the response by talking about how it's going to help strengthen your back, because that really expands the audience. It's not just vanity. You're now dealing with vanity and pain. I'm going to tell you, anybody that has back pain, I mean, I've got a little bit of it right now because I'm moving forward in my seat so I don't have feedback with my microphone. But anybody that has back pain and suffers from that, they've got to have a solution. It gets back to what I said earlier. If you don't do this, what are you going to do? And when are you going to do it? Might as well give it a try. That's the easiest way in the world to close a sale, through television, mail, any direct response advertising means. I want to move right now to an interesting thing that you've probably seen. If you've ever picked up the Sunday newspapers, you've looked in the employment section, you ever notice that big companies run ads that are just enormous? And they try to outspend other people to recruit people. You pick up the Orlando paper on Sunday. Atlanta paper, any major city. I mean, there's tons of these giant ads, and employment ads are very expensive. You will usually find, those of you that own businesses know this, you'll find that they have a different rate and cost per thousand for employment ads versus regular advertising. They charge more for employment ads because they know they've got you. They know that they're the means of distribution. I mean, people that have businesses are laughing because they realize, they've got you by the throat. But you see these ads and they don't have any headlines whatsoever, any specific reason of who they're looking for. And then you'll see ads that are very, very simple. That what's the number one reason why people are looking in the newspaper for a job? Money. They want to make money, right? They have to make money, or they need to make money, or they want to make money. Whatever the case is, it's money, okay? So what type of headline would you have for people looking for jobs? A money headline. Why not? Pardon me? An easy one, yeah. Well, one that really appeals to the audience. If money appeals to the audience, wouldn't you have a headline that appeals to that audience, geared towards why they're in there? Money. And if there's a section that you can advertise in that is the section that person's going to go to, which is another aspect in testing. Sometimes when you're testing ads, for instance in classified ads, you're going to test certain sections of a newspaper. One section might get 4 times the response than another. You might be in the wrong section of the newspaper, getting back to the wrong demographics. Even though the demographics are there for that particular paper, you got in the wrong section. If you specifically ask to be in the right section and they put you in the wrong section, then you're going to ask for a make good and an extra ad. Plus, you really want to get 2 ads just for the inconvenience of you having to pick up the phone. But if you put an employment ad in, there's a lot of companies that spend millions to recruit employees that could cut their ad costs by 1,000% just by dealing with money first. Because that will segregate them from all the other ads that don't deal with the money first. You ever notice where the money is on those big ads? Getting back to what I said about burying headlines, it's at the bottom of the ad. Usually after they give you all the job description, which is totally, you can give a brief job description, but the fact is you're not going to hire them just by a phone call. The purpose of that ad is to get them to call. But you've got the money that they're going to earn, the principal reason, the only reason they're in the newspaper, only reason they're looking, at the bottom of the ad. Often the headline can be buried at the bottom of the ad. The next thing that you want to test is pricing. You know, I don't want to belabor headlines because you guys have hundreds of them in the course that you ordered from television, but moreover, there's hundreds upon thousands of them available to you on a day-to-day basis. And as I said, you're going to become, and I hope that you do, much more cognizant of the headlines that exist. And you'll start to review them and see how you can make them better. And this will actually become a hobby and a way of life for you. You'll see things and want to change them. You'll see things that are working and know that you can make them work better. But they're a very important element, headlines and opening statements, because they stop the audience, they speak to the intended audience with a specific benefit of why they should read the ad. And it's a progression of steps. The first thing is to stop people. Get them to stop and say, okay, I want to know more about this. And to get them to listen, get their attention, interest, desire, and action. The next thing you want to get to is price testing. And testing price is something that is foreign to many people that advertise. They have many people in business, they never push the envelope as far as testing pricing. Have no idea. Why? Because they decided one day, when they had a cup of coffee, sitting down at work, this is what it should be. This is what the cost of my product should be. Stupid. Because you're overlooking the fact that you're determining what the market is going to tell you. And if the market tells you differently, you can make dramatic differences. Ever seen an offer and the price is so low that you say it's too good to be true? How many people seen that? Admit it. Everybody in this room has seen that before. You read an offer and you said, oh, that's too cheap. They can't do it for that. There's no, right? You've done it. Every one of you done it. You read an ad, and then when you got to the price, you said, there's no way they can do it for that price. No way. Well, the fact is that if you test pricing, you're going to find out all kinds of things about the people that buy from you. You're also going to see dramatic differences as far as profitability. Another thing to think about is everybody's seen ads for record clubs and book clubs and those type of offers. Why do you think they can sell 6 CDs for $1? The simple answer is this: they know how much it costs to get you as a customer and how much you're worth. One thing you want to stay away from until you know that is to try to guess it. Because you can go to the poor farm real quick on that one. So you say, well, they should be worth $300, so therefore I'll lose money for the first 5 months on this sale. But the fact is that when I was a kid, I never understood, and this is an important element to bring up. When I was a kid, it was 6 records for a penny. And you know, I said 6 records for a penny. You know, that's silly. No one can do that. And it was unbelievable, so I never ordered. If I did, I'd still be in a record club today, because getting out of a record club is tough. It's a lot of work to get out of a record club. Probably going to have somebody from a record club say, you hurt our industry by saying that. But the fact is if you educate people and tell them why you're making that particular offer and the specific truth as to why you're doing it, and saying the reason we're willing to lose money on this specific offer to get you started is that we know you'll like the service of continually being able to select the titles that you want on a month-to-month basis, and it's convenience. So we want you to try the service by availing yourself initially and trying it and getting this initial offer. And just to reward you for taking action, we're going to sell you 6 records for a penny. If they'd done that, I would have ordered. Many of you would have. Gets back to the believability and also the truth of what you're advertising. Another thing to bring up that's interesting is I know the person who started selling magazines over the telephone back in the late 1950s. And what this person did is they went to the publishers, knowing what I said earlier, is that magazines are really more interested in increasing readership, paid readership, so that they can increase their advertising rates to typically institutional advertisers, the people we've been talking about this morning, that dissipate capital, but they spend their capital based on circulation and the amount of people that they're reaching, not on results. And so this person went to a bunch of publishers and, understanding this about the business, arranged to sell all these magazine subscriptions, and they are still in business, and they group magazines together to really make a cornucopia type of offer. It's 10 different magazines they get to you every month, and just through a process of testing, their average sale on the telephone is $1,000, but they sell it as a dollar amount per week rather than $1,000. It's a 5-year sale. And you can change the magazines that you get whenever you want. So if you want to drop one magazine and pick up another, you can do that. That's okay. But that's how they sell magazines. And they just kept on testing pricing and testing the amount of years that they could charge somebody for this particular product. And you think about that. They've made one phone call and they got a $1,000 sale. But they started out on a 1-year sale. And they just started testing and testing and testing and realizing, hey, people will buy on a 5-year sale just as easy as they'll buy on a 1-year sale. Well, what's that do to the profitability of the business? By testing pricing. It zooms. And it's what I said earlier, minor adjustment, major change. And just a minor element can make that much of a difference. And again, stressing this is so important. Margins are where people fall down in business. I mean, it's just the most amazing thing. It's so frustrating to me to see people that go out with a low margin product. They've got a 2-to-1 margin, and they think they're going to make money because people want to buy them. No, they're not going to make money. They can't afford to pay the other expenses that are intrinsic to that particular product being offered. One thing that I want to bring up is that low pricing and low margin, for instance, you can often find, and Mark touched on this a moment ago, and with the story of this particular ad, it really doesn't matter what the price of that software is. That's not really the offer. The offer is to get the phone to ring. That's the real offer. That's just an attempt to get the phone to ring. That's not the core product. That's not their business. That is not their business. They're in the business of other products, but they need to use one product as a catalyst to get people to the phone and call and to build up a revenue stream. One of the things that you want to look at is paper, video, and audio tape products, information products. The reason we like information products versus other products is that one of the reasons why they're more successful with margins is they're harder to compare. I talked about it earlier. If you have a toothpaste that costs $2 and one that's 10, you better have a darn good reason why the one that's 10 is worth 10 bucks. You're selling a commodity product with a new twist. Frank Perdue had a good reason why the chicken should cost more. He treated it better. He fed it better. It looks better. So those were all the things and all the elements that got into his marketing because he educated people as to the differences. But what you'll find with these particular products, and I used the example with Chris earlier, which you should talk to Chris, because Chris is a great guy. He's really interesting, and he's a kickboxer. So the guys that know him say, Chris, you're a kickboxer, but don't ever get in a fight with Chris. I heard about that. But at any rate, you should talk to him because he's selling a product for he buys it for $125, sells it for $12.50. Whether you sell that product or not, you'll understand why people want to buy that particular product. But I mean, once again, we're in a 10-to-1 margin as far as pricing is concerned, and I don't know if they've tested price. People might pay $2,000 for the product. But if you look for products with high margins and you start to test pricing, you can dramatically expand the profitability. We really should have done a spreadsheet showing a product at $25 and $35, what happens to the profitability. And what's your estimate of what happens to the profitability when you go from 25 to 35? You go up about 40% profit. Well, as far as a percentage point, it might be double the profit or triple the profit just by testing price. You can make 3 times the profit just by testing price because your fixed costs relative to the sale are already in the $25 cost. The $10 can be added profit. So if your net profit before was $10, you just add another $10, you doubled your profitability. I know that was fast, but some of you will get it an hour from now. But the point is that testing pricing is very important. Another element of testing pricing is getting into multi-payments. You can make a $10,000 product sound a lot cheaper. I mean, look at the car advertisements. What are they selling? The total cost of the car or the monthly payment? Monthly payments. I mean $199, and you can drive this car, rather than $11,275. Which one has more response? Most people are monthly payment buyers. So they're going to get across the pricing of their product on the monthly payment basis. And it often gets back to, too, is the desire that people have in any particular offer is very much relevant to how you explain converting them to a single payment. Everyone here will find the money for something that they want. If you don't believe that, go to New York City and look at crack addicts. They can find $400 a day. But they want something, they're going to find the money. Well, it's the same thing. If you're on a multi-payment basis and you need to increase cash flow, you need to give people an incentive with something that they really want that has value to convert them to a single payment. But the point is because you're at a multi-pay basis, you're getting almost twice as many phone calls in many cases. So you have more opportunities. So therefore, if for instance you get twice as many calls and you only convert 70% of the people to multi-pay, the net as far as increased cash flow, even though you're waiting for 30% of the people to pay in the second, third, or fourth month, or however long you've amortized it, is higher. The net profit's higher. You with me there? Went kind of quick there. It's kind of quick for me. If you're doing direct mail, you'd want to test the same list. You don't want to go into a brand new list because now you're testing another element. Okay? So if you decide that you're going to test headlines and you want to test them, you want to go back to the same publication knowing that you validated that publication for the demographics and the cost and the value. You want to go back to the same place where you tested. You want to always try to restrict and isolate to testing one element at a time. And this is another mistake that people make. You're testing an ad, and you're on the phone with the newspaper advertising person, and they're upselling you to a 30-day run. How many of you have ever tried to place an ad and they try to pitch on a 30-day run? Okay? All right? It's happened to you. Okay? It's happened to us too. We've just screwed up more than you have. You get on the phone, you buy the 30-day deal because it's 82% less per day. That's not the initial purpose of your test. If you know that you can buy that advertising for 82% less once it works, you know that you can factor in starting out that my ad cost is here. So if the cost that you need to make your particular sale is $35, but because your ad cost is 82% higher on the initial run, and therefore your cost to get an order becomes $73.80, we now know that, good news, I'm doing cartwheels and backflips, I can reduce my ad cost by 82%, so now I'm down in around $14 to get that order. Everybody follow me there? Okay? The purpose isn't to go out and buy the deal on advertising. You know, if we're to test something in USA Today, which is a great place to test, by the way, I'm not trying to endorse that particular publication, but the reason it's a great place to test is even though it's a relatively costly, it's not a small, low-price classified ad, if you really want to get a quick read of the country, that goes to a lot of different people. And you know, you can get in there for a 4-line classified ad on a Wednesday is probably going to be about $180 or so. And you can get a 2-day run, and sometimes you want to test a 2-day run. You don't want to go out and buy an annual contract with USA Today when you don't know whether your ad works. No, I'm going to tell you something. We've seen people that have done it. I know people in the business that make $1 million a year that are doing that, and that's how they operate their business. They're very successful. And just a couple minor adjustments in their thinking of how they buy advertising would be very relevant. But you don't want to go out and say, I know everything works, and buy the deal. You'd be much better off testing 4 more newspapers or 4 more advertising sources for 2 days than you would testing 1 for 30 days, knowing that as you factor into your costs, that your costs could come down dramatically just by increasing the frequency in which you buy the advertising later on once you validated the particular offer. As far as guarantees are concerned, I think the biggest thing to get across to people, and this is another element of cash flow that also works, but Mark's talking about this specific ad, talking about we'll bill you later. Okay, well this is a permutation of 3 payments of $29.95 or $59.95 or whatever the multi-pay is. If you add to your offer, you can try the product for 30 days and we'll bill you later. provided that those people capturing the calls are trained to do so by a script that they read, and that script is consistent, which, by the way, the reason that you want to order products from other people is to hear their scripts. He knows everybody's script in the business, and everybody in the business knows our scripts, because they all buy from each other. They know exactly how we run our business. They know exactly what we say on the phone. They know everything about us. And the only thing that they don't know is how many customers we have, because we don't rent our mailing list. We don't rent it to other people. But you can find out the customers of a company just by calling a mailing list broker up. And if you don't know how to call up a mailing list broker, you should order DM News, which is the industry magazine, and there's a gazillion mail order brokers. I make up words too. A gazillion is my new word. But there's a lot of mailing list brokers. You call them up and you ask for a data card. And it gives you a full profile of what that particular company does. How many sales they make a month, how many sales are to females, how many sales are to males, what's the average unit of sale. And it tells you a lot about their particular business. You can almost forecast down to the penny what they're taking in gross sales a month, provided that their list information is accurate. But the issue here with making an offer with pricing, and also a guarantee, is you could tie pricing and guarantee and billing all into one lump as far as an offer. And you could say, call now and you'll try the product for free for 30 days. We won't bill you for 30 days. Just like, and you can even tie it into a multi-pay. And then thereafter, you'll get 3 payments of $59.95. When they get on the phone and they're calling in, and if you train a person answering the phone call with a simple, succinct script as to why they should pay now rather than 30 days so that you don't dissipate your cash flow, then you can determine how many people will convert right now to increase your cash flow by giving them an offer that's extremely irresistible. And it might be an offer that costs you a lot of money comparatively. You know, it might be $10 to $15 on a $200 sale. But it has a high perceived value, and it gets the person to allow billing right now, and it's a very simple thing. Hey, if we can go ahead and bill your credit card right now, in full, we're going to give you this other product that's worth $389. And if you make it so irresistible, you're inducing more phone calls in on that particular ad just by making some minor adjustments in the offer. And you're combining elements of pricing, guarantees, bill me laters, and bonuses all in one to multiply your effort and make a dramatic difference in what you're doing. One of the first ways that you do that is you order from other people and you try to buy from other people. For instance, let's say that you want to start a pest control service, high margin product. You know, we're talking chemicals again, okay? You go out and you call all the pest control people in the area and see what their offer is. You see how much they charge, what's their guarantee. So it gives you initial foundation of what the market's willing to bear for that particular service. But that's a great question. What you want to do, shopping other people, and, you know, I talked about the chastisement I received from somebody about, you know, saying that the markets are so big that often the opportunities are right in front of you. And there's so many of them. And the number one thing, as I started out today, that I want to get you to, and I'm sure Mark wants to achieve the same thing, is to get you specifically focused on one thing only that you're going to do when you leave. Because if you're running in 5 different directions, you're going to be on a lot of different roads. And you're going to be awfully confused and awfully frustrated. And we've run into people before that work long hours, they work real hard, they don't make any money because they're doing 10 things at once. It's not going to work. But if you start shopping from people, and you start to see exactly what they do in the selling process, and then you find out manufacturers, if it's a manufactured product, what it's going to cost you. And you start to go through these steps of analysis, and you make sure that you follow through with these things, you're going to make a lot of money. And, you know, I think by now, even though we spent just a few hours together, you've got to realize that there's so much potential out there. If you'll just focus on one thing and get one thing going right. One of the hardest things that we're up against is we get offers to do deals and products every week that are home runs. They're absolute home runs. And the natural human propensity is to sit there and say, my gosh, if we do this, 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 and this, we're going to do better. Wrong. Because it's going to take effort from what you're doing that's already working to disperse it. And the natural craving for an entrepreneur and people with entrepreneurial instincts is they get bored very easily. I'm not striking with anybody here, right? Not connecting with you at all. You get bored. Most of you are people that like crisis, and when you control the crisis and fix it and contain it and get everything running smooth, you don't like a smooth day-to-day operation. It's bored and mundane to you, right? Connecting with you? Okay. It's a problem that you have, and that's okay. That's also the talent and the strength and the characteristic that you all share. That's a very, very good one. But the fact is if you'll just focus on one thing at a time and get that underway, you'll do a lot better. It's interesting. We were reading the profitability of a national company, and we know a lot of people that work for this. It's an international company. It's a public company. And so it's completely published what their profitability is. And we were amazed how little their profits were in relation to their gross sales. $160 million, $4 million profit, that's less than 4%, and they're doing cartwheels. Yippee, we did it, I mean, I'd be ashamed. I'd be absolutely ashamed if that was the only level of profit and you were proud about it. You're publishing it, telling people, that's great, we did 4% profit. That's horrendous. You're in the wrong business. And the fact is that particular company is so busy doing all these new deals that they don't focus in on the handful of deals that already work. They get everybody running in the wrong direction. If we went and took over that company, the first thing we'd do is look at the top 3 or 4 things and try to make them better, and we'd stop looking at any new deals. Could that hurt the long-term run of the business? It might, but it would certainly shore it up and increase the profitability in the short term, because we'd be focusing in on the things that work rather than dissipating our efforts and moving to all these other things that don't work. Because there's only so much you can do and only so many balls you can juggle in the air. And the fact is, if you just hold one in your hand, you're going to do a lot better than throwing 12 up in the air and trying to keep them in the air. And I want to get this across to you because it is a big, big faux pas that people have, is they're dissipating all their effort, running around, hoping that something's going to work, when the fact is there's so many things that work right in front of you that if you just do that thing well, then eventually when you get bored, you can move to something else. But the fact is, if you do move to something else, you'll probably make less than just focusing on what you do right. Because in the process of taking a winning offer and rolling it out, it takes months. It takes months to find all the advertising sources. I mean, it's going to be a lot of trial and error and a lot of tracking and testing. All of us have a risk in making decisions. When we reduce the risk of making a decision, it makes it much more palatable for us to act. I also think that having specific guarantees is a lot better than non-specific guarantees. But I think to some extent, if you have a product that's $12.95 in print, for years there were pillows sold in print in Parade magazine. $9.95 was about 12 inches wide. It was about 38 cents worth of foam. But it was $12.95. I think there's been a lot of products where millions have been made where people just didn't send it back. And there was a pretty high return rate on that product because it wasn't a great product, but where that money was made in that particular product, from what I can see and what I know about it, was the sheer fact that people didn't want to return it. It was too cheap. There's a lot of opportunities in catalogs for products that'll work as direct response products, and they've just been overlooked. I'm going to give you a funny story, and we'll leave with this. When we were selling pillows, I contacted a catalog, a person who can, and he's in our direct response directory. It's a company up in Connecticut, and they distribute you into a lot of catalogs. They're like an agent or an agency to go to get you into a lot of catalogs. So rather than you go into each catalog individually, this person brokers you for a piece of the action to all the different catalogs. And I explained the offer and said, it's on TV, it's in the top 10, blah, 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 blah. And the guy says, yeah, it'll never work. And 3 months later, I see him at a convention, and he says, boy, was I stupid. I didn't see that one. Well, the fact is there's a lot of great products in catalogs that the people running them in the catalogs don't realize they could work by themselves. And interesting enough, the Home Shopping Network, they realized this problem a couple of years ago. And they had many successful products that, how they work at the shopping networks is if you're selling, you stay on the air. If you're not selling, okay, we're going to go to the next product here in a minute. You got a minute left because you're bombing. But they know what products work and what don't. It's immediately direct responsive. I mean, the phones light up or they don't light up. And so what they realized is that they had a lot of products, and think of them as an electronic catalog. And the same analogy holds true. They have a lot of products that do really well, that really sell. And so they said, well, why don't we start producing infomercials for these products? And so they created an infomercial division. And they hired one of the most talented producers and writers in the business to go out and start to produce infomercials for them. But they knew what products they should focus on for infomercials because they'd already tested them on TV. So they answered the question as far as catalogs, and this also holds true, and I'll tell you a story about retail a little bit later when we come back, but it holds true that these particular products are working, and people want them. And if they're just marketed by themselves, they could really be a big hit.